Josh Hennig back here on 97.3 ESPN. You know how we do it on Hanging with Hennig. Of course, we are broadcasting live today from yesterday's Creekside Tavern in Marmora. But as always, joining me every week, all football season. We've been doing this for years now. It's my guy, Andy McNamara. He is back. Fantasy football talk. And Andy, we are now in NFL Week 3. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, boy, I'm doing better than those with some certain quarterback situations in fantasy football. Well, actually, maybe I'm not because I got a Joe Burrow share, so maybe I'm not doing that good after all. But, yeah, I'm doing good, buddy. I'm doing good. How are things with you?
I'm doing well. So let's start with that big news because, is Joe Burrow done for the year? No, not in the real world, but in fantasy football terms, he is done. He is out pretty much for the year.
Useless.
So, this changes a lot of people's strategy, right? This goes from being, hey, I got a quarterback to now being like, do I stick with Browning? Do I go get somebody? Like, for example, someone like me, I had Joe Burrow in my one league. I went out and got Daniel Jones. Now, I don't know how many leagues Daniel Jones is still available in. So I don't know if that's the top recommendation. So for you, Andy, how are you telling people they need to handle this news when it comes to Joe Burrow?
It's tough because this is a case where you get Joe Burrow, you're spending for a quarterback a relatively high pick, most likely. And I have on my show on Tuesday, the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube and X at Sick Pod Browns. Went under the wire waiver wire pickups and took a look. And I was with you. I said, first choice, this is the Sam Darnold of this year, is Daniel Jones. Something we don't want to accept. The old macho man. You may not like it, but accept it. Right? That's it. He's doing good so far. How long is it going to last? I don't know, but the dude's balling out. So let's roll with it. If he's not there, that's number one. That's where you go with the Jake Browning underneath. And it might seem obvious, oh, he's the backup quarterback. He's still available. And last time I checked, about 80% of fantasy leagues, depending what you're in, 80%, which is wild after the waiver wire. And here's the thing. This isn't your typical, if you think about like a Case Keenum or you're going in Jimmy Garoppolo. Whatever. Jake Browning's a madman, all right? And I mean that in the best way for fantasy football. This dude doesn't care. Look at last week, okay? He threw 2 touchdowns, threw 3 interceptions, ran in a touchdown, got you 20 fantasy points in relief. And we have to remember, this isn't a one-off. 2 years ago, he filled in for Burrow and did well. Also uses his legs a little bit. You're against Minnesota, good defense, but the guy's fearless. I got confidence he can get the ball to the right targets. Remember, too, it's not like he's dealing with a new offense. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins have been there. So really it comes down to there's the quarterback, but there's also the fallout, right? There's, okay, how does this affect Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and maybe positively Chase Brown to get more touches because of the backup situation?
Who do you think this impacts more of those two? Because I think a lot of people would be like, well, Jamar Chase is still Jamar Chase, right? But, we'll get to Minnesota in a minute. But I tend to feel like, when the change of quarterback happens, it can be a negative for a lot of people, not just one or the other, right? So
Sure.
But like for you, if you had to weigh it, like if you have one, if you're people listening right now to us on 97.3 ESPN, one person's got Higgins, one person's got Chase. Who are you saying, hey, be careful to more?
Higgins, the Higgins situation. Now, that being said, last time Browning was in, Chase and Higgins were still serviceable, above average as fantasy producers, but your expectations dropped. On average, Jamar Chase fell 7 fantasy points, okay, on average. Now, that's a lot, but it also goes to show you how good Jamar Chase is doing. So you might have to be adjusting your expectations when you're thinking about your roster for Jamar Chase into it maybe a mid-teens to high teens fantasy producer instead of a 20-plus producer. Big difference considering you drafted him with one of the first 3 picks most likely. T. Higgins, I see, is probably the biggest hit. Secondary guy, because then you could also work in. We also don't know, does Jake Browning have a better connection or develops a better connection with a Mike Gesicki? Does that happen? With an Andre Yesevich? Maybe. Like I said, does Chase Brown get more touches because of this situation? There's all this fallout we don't know yet, but look, if you draft Jamar Chase, you're going to roll with him, and I think still Jake Browning, it's going to be a roller coaster, But I think he's going to be a lot of fun if you can't get Daniel Jones. Because after that, Josh, like I'm looking. Look, Geno Smith is still out there. He had a stinker, but I still think Geno Smith is a nice steady Eddie. After that, though, Carson Wentz in Minnesota. Whoa. Russell Wilson, great last week. Garbage week 1. What's he doing? Anybody interested in Tua? I don't trust that offense.
No.
Now, Mac Jones is actually, now if you can't get any of those two, I got to give credit to Mac Jones. Like, not bad, right? 21.76 fantasy points, 3 touchdowns, ran as well. Does that continue? Is he going to be able to be efficient enough in that offense? Like Mac Jones, probably the safer, higher floor, lower ceiling than a Jake Browning. So that'd be sort of my third layer of it. Those would be your top 3, and hopefully one of those is available because right now, Mac Jones is still just available in 7% of leagues. The other thing to keep in mind, Mac Jones is a stopgap. He probably will play this week.
Right.
The next week, you're probably hunting again.
Well, also, like, it's almost like Mac Jones is like almost like if you already have Brock Purdy, you go grab Mac Jones, right?
Yes.
It's not a actual, like, hey, he's going to help you. Like, look at Minnesota. Let's get to them real quick here.
Oh, boy.
J.J. McCarthy.
Disaster.
So, first of all, I have seen 4 different reports about how long he's going to be out. So,
yeah.
I can't even tell our audience what's going on exactly, okay?
Yeah.
Is he out
4
weeks? Is he out 8 weeks? Is he out 10 weeks? Is he out 7 weeks? Nobody knows. So, but what we do know, Andy, no one in their right mind is starting Carson Wentz in fantasy football.
Please.
Okay?
Please don't.
So with that on what is understood versus what is not understood.
With that fact.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, the thing is, and I don't want to hear maybe it's the system. That excuse can work for some, not for Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz really shouldn't be in the NFL anymore, if we're honest, right? Really shouldn't be in the league. He's totally done. So don't get cute with that. Be terrified if you are a Justin Jefferson owner, a TJ Hawkinson owner. Let's stick with the Vikings quick. Aaron Jones is out. Jordan Mason was starting to sort of be even keeled, and this could be a boon for Jordan Mason. Like, this could be a really good thing for Jordan Mason. But outside of that, man, like, do you roll the dice? I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers. One good week, one bad, right? Look good. Matthew Stafford is one little back tweak away from being useless. Michael Penix Jr., great week 1. Available in 36% of leagues because he had 5.3 fantasy points week 2. You're playing Carolina. That's a plus matchup. But that, again, is getting sort of into the streaming conversation, right? What are you looking at? So there are some iffy options. And how about this for a real long shot? And you might be able to hang with this for a while. I don't like it, but Spencer Rattler looked pretty damn good against that San Francisco defense with 3 tutties. You're going up against tough Seattle. I don't believe in Spencer Rattler, but I'm just saying, if it's desperate times, these are all better options than Carson Wentz.
We're talking with Andy McNamara at AndyMC81 on the Twitter X platform at AndyMC Sports on Instagram. Of course, he is the host of the Sick Podcast. He joins us each week here on 97.3 ESPN. You mentioned Spencer Rattler. I'm just going to emphasize this again. And I haven't seen the latest number, so I can't pretend like I know all the numbers off the top of my head. But maybe not Spencer Rattler people want. But if you haven't already picked up Juwan Johnson,
yeah,
I don't know what is wrong with you, because it is obvious, whether Rattler is a good game or not, that dude is getting targets, Andy.
Yeah, and that's the unknown and frustration going into a year, because you'd automatically think Chris Olave, Kamara, nope, Spencer, these young quarterbacks, they develop their guy, right? And you don't know who the guy is necessarily. Juwan Johnson's the guy. So great point for tight ends. Like, if you're a David Njoku owner, like I am in several leagues, oof, not a great start for the Chief or my Browns. But that's a case where I'd be like, maybe I don't want to drop Njoku, but boy, I sure want to play Juwan Johnson or Tucker Kraft or Jake Ferguson over him right now.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. And you mentioned Tucker Kraft. For those who didn't hear the news on Thursday, A little knee tweak is what they called it at practice. So
Just a little one.
It looks like he's going to be good to go, but you never know with these guys. I mean, how does it hold them back from the route running? Do they maybe run a little less fast? There's all kinds of things that go into this. So, but if you're someone who's looking for people, we mentioned a couple names so far: Juwan Johnson, Mac Jones for maybe 1 week. Maybe you do consider Jake Browning as a long-term option.
Yeah.
And I'll throw out another name for you, Andy, a guy that I don't think is picked up in a lot of people's leagues right now. Are we starting to wonder, is Drake May going to become that next tier down guy? Because I say that, we know that he's looked fine. He hasn't looked amazing, right? But for fantasy football, being fine can be a steady, productive player for you. So is Drake May a guy that people might want to look at a little closer?
I'd say so. Now, his ownership has been popped up over this week. So it's gone up 7 to 10% depending on the platform you're using. So is he going to be available on the waiver wire? Worth a look. Most people would have him as a backup or a QB2, but last week, QB1 numbers, 26.3. And I mean that top 12, not that he was the top quarterback. But 2 touchdowns, ran one in. Week before, week 1, just a shade under 17. So if there's and you know what? Maybe if you're one of those quarterback sufferers with the guys we mentioned, maybe you try to trade for Drake May. Much lower of a trade price than you're going after one of the studs. And that's going to keep you probably around the high teens, 16 to 20 points. And hey, you could do much worse than that. We know. So Drake May, as they improve, you play Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's been allowing 31.5 points per game this season, which is surprising for a Pittsburgh defense. And then after that, you got Carolina. They suck. So the next 2 games, you get yourself some Drake May. Not bad. Then you got Buffalo, that stuff, but then New Orleans and Tennessee. So that's a good little stretch for Drake May, and he's going to come at a lower trade price than one of the other top guys.
Another game I'm looking at very closely this weekend in the NFL. So I don't know if you noticed this, Andy, but the offensive player of the week the last 2 weeks have been quarterbacks who played the Chicago Bears. Yes. Week 1, that J.J. McCarthy, he was offensive player of the week. Jared Goff last week, offensive player of the week. Are you now looking at that Cowboys team and saying, boys, start them all?
Oh, boy. Well, I'll tell you, in our ESPN 97.3 league, I subbed out C.J. Stroud, popped in Dak Prescott. Let's go. I also have Daniel Jones on the bench against Tennessee that I'm kind of waffling about. We talk about Daniel Jones, but I'm still scared to play him, so I'm not sure. But yeah, hey, this Cowboys team, you have to remember, that defense is soft. What's that mean? And the Bears can score points now. So they're going to score points. Dallas can't stop them. You have to throw more. Jake Ferguson, get him in there. CeeDee Lamb, of course. George Pickens popped up, right? Javonte Williams. Holy cow. I am so glad. I'm in 5 fantasy leagues this year. I think in 3, at least 2, I got Javonte Williams as an afterthought, Josh. I was like, another running back. In my mind, he was the sort of last level of standalone running back. It's not going to be great, but he's going to get the touches. And now we look through 2 weeks, it's like, whoa, this guy's putting up some fantasy numbers. And, I keep riding him till it tells you to do differently. But, yeah, I think you can comfortably go heavy on Cowboys this week.
But I was thinking in the NFC East, Jayden Daniels did not practice Wednesday, did not practice Thursday. He's not playing, Andy. It's pretty obvious that the Washington tried to make it like, oh, well, we don't know. Well, he's not playing, okay?
No.
I think it's fair to say right now, we mentioned from Burrow to Browning, from J.J. McCarthy to Wentz, impact their offensive weapons. Well, it's not like Terry McLaurin's been lighting the world up already. Debo has scored 2 straight weeks for Washington.
Yeah.
So how does the Jayden Daniels to Marcus Mariota impact those teams' offensive weapons?
What I like is when I see a team and they match their backup quarterback's skill set similarity to their starter. I hate when you see a mobile guy and their backup is a statue. Makes no sense, right? Try to match it up. Marcus Mariota perfectly fits that description. It's well done. The guy's won a playoff game. He's not a starter anymore, but we've seen him be able to come in and pop. Now, what does that mean for Terry McLaurin or everybody? It's sort of the same situation like we said, like, where does the benefits? Let's not discount Zach Ertz, who's had a nice little quiet start to the season, quietly been real good. I think Marcus Mariota, is obviously better than Carson Wentz, as is every backup situation in football. But like for Marcus Mariota, he can distribute the ball. He can use his legs. As a streamer, again, maybe more for DFS, probably going to get him on the cheap. I wouldn't mind putting in some Marcus Mariota there. I don't like it, but if you're in QB2 trouble, maybe a stream with Marcus Mariota. How that affects Terry McLaurin, Josh, we can only hope a positive, because for whatever reason, and we talked about it on your show and my show, when players miss time, you can trace it back. When starters like, why are they off to a slow start? Did they miss time in camp? Yep. Terry McLaurin did. Doesn't matter that he's a vet. And we're in this situation. So, in most cases, like with me, I have Terry McLaurin on two teams. I'm going to play him because I don't have – it always comes down to – I always get asked, and you get your questions into me, hashtag Ask Andy on X on Instagram, should I bench him? Well, you have to tell me who the options are. Right? I'm not going to say yes or no. I don't know who you got. If you got then your backup is Adam Thielen, no, take a chance with Terry. So I'm interested to see how that game is, and I wonder if there's some money to be made on the spread too. Washington 3.5-point favorite against the Raiders. I'm sure that line will move, but I wonder if there's some money to be made off of Las Vegas here.
Definitely something to consider. All right, a couple more things for Andy McNamara before we let him go here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. I'm going to rattle off some names, Andy. You're going to give us the yes, that's a guy you want to get in your lineup, or no, that's a guy that we still need either to avoid or more time about, okay?
Okay, let's do it.
All right, let's start with Bashul Tutin, the running back from the Jaguars. Also, by the way, from South Jersey is Tutin, so we'll throw that out there. But guess what? They trade Tank Bigsby.
Mm-hmm.
He got a little bit more of a turn up in his touches, right? Is that a guy you're keeping an eye on for fantasy?
Absolutely keeping an eye on. Now, we do have to track. He had a shoulder injury that he suffered on, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. You're going to want to track that. He's somebody I want on my team. He's someone I want to keep on the bench, though, for now. This is still Travis Etienne's show. But I'm very happy if I have Tutin on my team, because at some point that could flip or an injury to Etienne, certainly. And that Tank Bigsby trade really shows you that they like this guy and he's going to pop. So I'm not playing him, but I love that I have him.
Let's go to Green Bay. No Jayden Reed. By the way, can we talk about that real quick? Jayden Reed had surgery for 2 different injuries. He had a broken clavicle, and he has a Liz Frank injury in his foot. And they say he's out indefinitely. I'm sorry. Getting surgery for 2 injuries does not sound like you're out indefinitely. That sounds like you're out for the year, okay?
Done.
But the Packers, Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, Deontay Wicks. You doing anything with the Packers receivers, Andy?
Here's the thing. The answer is Tucker Kraft. That's the answer. And what I was bullish on him coming in to the year, but not to this extent. You got to look, who's the favorite target? Jordan Love loves him some Tucker Kraft. I think everybody else cannibalizes each other. If I have to pick one, I'll go Dubs. But I'm not going to be consistently in favor of that. Again, if you got to go with one, go with Dubs. The other ones, I just think you're going to have up, down weeks. I don't see much consistency. And that's why that neat tweak to Tucker Kraft is so important to track, is because if he's healthy, they're going to be doing it, and they're going up against my Browns, who notoriously have struggled against tight ends.
Final receiver I want to ask you about, let's go to Denver. Troy Franklin. Ooh. Most people have no idea who this guy was.
I do. Yeah.
He's from Oregon. He's a guy who put up some big numbers, and you see him really taking targets away from Sutton and Mims.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe in the Troy Franklin train? Are you saying not so fast, my friend?
I'm a believer. I got him in a couple leagues. I'm getting him into my lineup. I ultimately don't think this will affect Sutton as much. Down week for Sutton, but I don't think this kills Mims, right? I actually dropped Mims in one of my leagues. He was kind of one of those guys. My turn was coming up, and like 3 ahead of me, they got like who I wanted, 3 picks, and I was like, ah! I took Mims, and I panicked. I never liked the pick. Troy Franklin, we can't deny the target share. Week 1, 6 targets, 4 catches. Okay. Week 2, 9, 8, and a touchdown, and he got a carry for 11 yards. Now we're seeing being used as a weapon, right? This guy is going to be a star. And again, I don't ultimately think it'll affect Sutton too much, but this guy's number 2. You're playing the Chargers. Could be a fun little shootout. You got Cincinnati, whose defense is soft, couple back-to-back. I'm a believer in Troy Franklin. Depending who else you have, I would try to get him in there, even if it's in a flex spot.
Andy, before we let you go, and of course, we always appreciate you joining us each week here on 97.3 ESPN. I want to talk to you about fantasy football etiquette. Okay.
Okay.
So, I purposely am not putting this trade on the screen, so only Andy and I can see this trade because I do not want to blast the individual publicly for this. Okay. But if he's listening, he knows who he is. That's all.
He knows his shame.
Okay? So. There was a trade that I proposed. Okay, this guy has been hitting me up because I have where is it? Laporta in my one league, and I know that he's a guy a lot of people like. Well, I was like, you know what? I might want to keep Laporta because David Njoku is losing touches to Harold Fannin right now, right?
Right.
So my proposal to him, I said, look, I'll give you Njoku, who is still better than most of his tight ends.
Sure.
And Cortland Sutton, who, as you mentioned, he'll round out. You know,
he'll be fine.
He'll be fine. And I said, you give me Dalton Kincaid, a guy that I know is not going to be a huge target guy, but he's a boomer bust tight end, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and give me Emeka Egbuka, right?
Oh, love him.
Now, for those who don't know, Egbuka was limited participant in practice this week, but he's still, a rookie doing very well. He told me no. His counter proposal is he wanted to give him Josh Jacobs and Sam Laporta for Tyron Tracy, Dalton Kincaid, and Devontae Smith. And I told him absolutely not. I'm not giving
Close the app. No.
Right. So talk to the folks about fantasy football trade etiquette, Andy.
Yeah. So it's a case where, and there's nothing wrong putting a little feeler out, right? Now, you have to do it in good faith. But if you're putting out a deal like that is so obviously one-sided. It's like in real life when we talk sports, right? And people are like, trade for this guy. Like, well, who are you giving up? Huh? Who are you giving up? You don't have an answer to it. So if this guy wants Josh Jacobs and Sam Laporta, he's going to have to pay for him. And the etiquette has to be, you have to be giving a fair value back, right? And fairness can differ to different people depending what type of league you're in. But you can't be like what he thought because you like the Eagles, like, oh, Devonta Smith is a go Birds. In some leagues that might work. I don't know, but the etiquette is be sensible, be fair. If you're look at it from the other way. If you got that offer that you're proposing, would you take it or would you consider it? And if the answer is no, then redo it.
At AndyMC81 on the Twitter X platform, at AndyMC Sports on Instagram. The Sick Podcast. Like, subscribe, and download wherever you get your podcasts. Andy, anything else you got going on you want to plug here?
Well, hey, always check out at My Railbirds. Tons of great horse racing content. We make horse racing fun for the football fan, the hockey fan, everybody. You come in. I act like a jackass. It's a lot of fun. You guys will have a great time watching at My Railbirds on all social. And you can catch me every Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, except for this Sunday. I'll be in Cleveland, so you can watch all the live footage of me in Cleveland doing best bets, fantasy picks, all that. You can still get your questions into #AskAndy on X at AndyMC81 at SickPodBrowns and Instagram at AndyMC Sports.
Andy, be safe out there in Cleveland. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.